Alrighty. So, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I know that I'm probably not the only one who's suffering from webinar fatigue at the moment. So thanks for carving out some time in your day to join Video My Job as we delve into the first of our lockdown projects webinars. So I'm looking forward to hearing about some of the silver linings that coronavirus has made time for. I'm Tamara Grigg. I'm head of marketing at Video My Job, and I'm really grateful to have Jade Bennett, the director of Middleton Executive, and Laura Paton, the global talent manager at PaperCut Software, joining us today. I'm not going to introduce you ladies because I'm going to ask some questions about who you are and what you do shortly. So as we all know, as recently as a couple of months ago, we were in one of the tightest and most competitive labour markets in history. A lot of you will be facing a hiring freeze or just general uncertainty over headcounts and budget. So maybe in the chat, just pop a yay or an I if that's you. So given this sort of spending and hiring limbo, I know that a lot of people are using this time to review processes and build virtual recruitment strategies, kind of future-proofing what their departments do. So I thought it'd be great to have a representative from agency land and also an in-house talent professional to join us today and just tell us what they've been busy doing over the last few months. So Laura, over to you. Can you tell us a bit about PaperCut Software and what you do there?
Yeah, absolutely. So PaperCut Software was founded here in Melbourne by two guys, two software engineers, and we've actually been around for over 20 years now. We build print management software. So a lot of people wouldn't have heard of PaperCut Software, but if you ask any students who have print management at school, you know, what do they have to use to get their print jobs out? A lot of them will go, oh yeah, it's PaperCut. And also in a lot of universities and healthcare as well is big for us. So we're a multinational company. So actually predominantly most of our customers are overseas, but we're headquartered here in Melbourne where we do all of our product development here. So my role as the talent manager is to be part of our people experience team, but focus predominantly on bringing in new talent to the business and supporting our global teams to do the same for our overseas offices.
Thanks. And Jade, if you can tell us a bit about Middleton Exec and how you and Laura came to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. So Middleton Executive is a boutique talent agency that supports high growth tech companies scale their product and tech teams. I founded the business 3.5 years ago, and we have, I guess, 3 distinct offerings. So we have our embedded recruitment offering, contingent recruitment, and our exec appointments. I called it Middleton Executive because for us, having the word executive in there was really important. We apply our signature sourcing strategy to all of our processes. So I really wanted to move the business away from, I guess, what you might call the traditional recruitment model, which in my mind was becoming a bit of a conveyor belt. You know, jobs coming in and candidates going out almost on a repeat cycle. So we've created our own signature sourcing strategy that is very different to that. So we really want to add value to our clients, I guess, recruitment and people strategies, predominantly focused on product management, but over the last 2 years, we've really diversified into, I guess, the engineering and development side of things as well. I've been working with PaperCut for about 5 years now. So know the business really well. I've been working with Laura for, I think, coming up nearly 2.5, 3 years, predominantly again on the product side. And yeah, my first placement with Middleton Exec was actually with the PaperCut team.
Laura, how do you decide at PaperCut when to outsource? I don't actually know if insource is the right word, but when you go out and when you do the recruitment yourself.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to decide. I suppose there's some times in my life where I'm forced to ask for help because I can't do it all on my own. And I was actually really fortunate when I came into PaperCut that we were already working with the likes of Jade, and we had already a couple of great agencies on our panel. So when I started, the people experience team were actually overwhelmed with roles and they couldn't handle them all on their own. And really, I was there to take that off of their plate and to focus wholly and solely on that as a start. So I really partnered with a lot of our agencies and worked on the roles together, because some of them, such as Jade, had actually been working with PaperCut longer than I had been there. So they already knew the managers and the team, the dynamic and the culture, etc. We've since built up our internal talent acquisition function a bit more. So we have someone based in the States and the UK who do end-to-end HR, so including their own recruitment. And we have a dedicated tech talent partner in the Melbourne office as well. So for us, it's shifted to become a little bit more around those hyper strategic, harder to fill roles, and we'll go out with a multi-pronged approach. So we might advertise ourselves, we might do our own passive searching, and then we'll partner with the agency. And we're always super transparent about that being our approach. And we actually more so work together and we talk about, you know, candidates from both sides so that we can understand, okay, well, if I'm finding these candidates, can you find me these candidates, or vice versa, and work together to really drill down on what the requirement is and find the right person. And for the, you know, for example, with Jade, we needed a number of product people last year, and you know, using the same language, I made some placements and Jade made some placements. And so we were able to, you know, work together, and it was a success from both sides.
So Jade, given that there's not an awful lot of recruitment going on at the moment, how are you maintaining your relationships with both your clients like Laura, but also, you know, with candidates, or I guess candidates and job seekers, of which I assume the volume has increased?
Yeah, look, with sort of the commencement of COVID, the market, you know, shrunk pretty quickly, and a lot of the positions we were actively recruiting were either put on hold or kind of pulled indefinitely. So after, I guess, the initial shock and panic that any business owner would probably experience, you know, I made a real strategic decision that as a value-led business to put the sales activities or the business development activities on hold and to use the word hibernation, because I just didn't feel it would be appropriate to, you know, be out there in an opportunistic manner trying to drum up business when I think a lot of people were very anxious about their own roles. And even if their positions in their companies were secure, you know, they may be worried or stressed about their partner's employment or their families. So it just didn't feel right for us personally to be focusing on sales activities. So I really wanted to focus on being of service to the community. So just before the pandemic broke, we had actually just started our journey with video and actually using video in my job. So it was really good timing for us to, I guess, connect with our candidates and clients via video technology in an authentic way. And I really wanted to provide content that was meaningful and going to actually help people in a practical manner. Early on, probably 80% of the conversations I was having with job seekers, they were all asking the same thing. So I saw an opportunity to create a Q&A series addressing and answering a lot of the common questions that we were getting, helping people that, you know, previously hadn't had to actively look for a job. You know, they were always being headhunted by recruiters or headhunted by internal teams. And, you know, the amount of amazing product managers that ordinarily, if they were on the market, would be snapped up within a 7-day window were now, you know, finding themselves out of employment and very little opportunity. So it was providing, you know, coaching sessions, mentoring sessions, and video content to help people through that period.
So has most of your focus been on the candidate care then? Have you applied that same approach to your client base, or have you really been very much hibernating in terms of, you know, business development or client education?
Good question. I would say, look, it's been about 50-50 split between candidates and clients. I guess I'm in a really fortunate position that I've been recruiting in Melbourne for over 11 years now. So my relationship with my clients are 11 years old and very deep. So we only work with a handful of clients. So because we are a boutique agency, we don't work with hundreds of companies, and we're not out there consistently trying to get new business. We're really deep and very sticky in a handful of clients. So I've definitely kept in touch with our clients, but they've been really casual, Zoom coffees, catch-ups, and just talking about what's happening globally, what's happening in the market, what's happening in their lives. And it's just been kind of keeping in touch as friends, really. The pandemic's actually been really good on one hand, because it's actually made everybody a lot more personable, and you're all going through the same experience at the same time. During these Zoom catch-ups, people have their children working at home, they're working at home with their children and they're homeschooling. And, I've had people's children come in front of the camera and talk to me about their dinosaur collection and what they're working on and stuff. So it's been really nice to, I guess, connect on a much more personal level. Another way that I have been connecting with our clients is that Middleton Executive is going to be launching its own podcast. So I'm really excited to be launching that in the next couple of weeks. And that's a podcast dedicated to product management. So I'll be interviewing heads of products, CEOs, founders of businesses, talking about product management, all things product. So I've been connecting with clients about that and getting them on the show and recording episodes. So although our conversation isn't exclusively focused on recruitment, we've really been discussing product management as a discipline and some of the challenges and things that the industry is facing, and how we can help contribute to its advancement via the podcast. So that's been really fun.
That sounds pretty exciting. I look forward to that, and I expect to see some of the PaperCut team starring in an episode soon.
I hope so.
So, Laura, when COVID kicked off and hiring was sort of halted, what was your first response? And I guess, what did you decide to tackle first internally when you were faced with that kind of, a release from that day-to-day recruitment grind?
My initial reaction was, expletive. I just brought on a dedicated tech talent partner in Melbourne after kind of, spending a lot of time deciding what type of internal structure we wanted to build. And we had moved in this direction. And I was fearful for his job, first of all, that, we were going into a hiring freeze and what were we going to do? So my aim overnight became to make him as busy as humanly possible, and then make myself as busy as humanly possible, in that order. So we really went back to a huge backlog of things that we had written down over the past couple of years. We try to use Trello as much as we can as a team. We're even toying around with using OKRs in sprints at the moment. So what we did was I said to the team, okay, let's try this now. Perfect opportunity. So we delved into a sprint as a people experience team. We prioritized our backlog, and we chose several key initiatives that we thought would have the most impact over the course of this time. For our people experience advocates who are more focused internally, obviously a lot of that was around COVID and the response to that, and our shift to distributed working or working fully remote. For the talent team, it was, oh my gosh, free time? What do you mean? What do you mean time? I don't know. I don't understand this concept. So we did pull our advertising, but we put a note up to say, hey, look, even though we're not advertising, we still want to speak to people. And we very quickly shifted into active pipelining. So that's how I referred to it. We went from active hiring to active pipelining. We already knew what roles we were likely to need once we come out of COVID. So we wanted to keep the momentum going there. And we really focused on market mapping, speaking to individuals who are happy to speak to us, and kind of like what Jade was referring to, all of a sudden we had people who were willing to chat to us who normally would say absolutely no way. They were either a little bit fearful that their current role might, you know, be in jeopardy because of the situation, or perhaps they just had a little bit more time and space to think about, you know, their next opportunity and what they might want. But the other exciting parts, other than pipelining, was the opportunity to focus on things like our onboarding program, to delve deeper into that, to actually bring it into how people learn over the first few months in the business, what they learn. You know, how quickly can we get them up to speed, and add all of this context into their brain to make them feel as though they're able to hit the ground running and achieve some success in a shorter period. And then the other two, I suppose, major things that we wanted to focus on was candidate experience. So actually gathering some data around that. So looking at our candidate experience surveys. So we have all of that set up to start actively measuring through data that candidate experience when we're back hiring, and continuing with the employer brand, because I think it would have been a huge mistake to pull all of those types of activities. Some had to stop, such as going to meetups, obviously, and in the tech scene in Melbourne, that's a really huge source of engagement with our community. But yeah, more focused on content, you know, any improvements we can make to our careers page, keeping up with all socials, putting out, like Jade was saying, content that's relevant to people that they want to hear about, and that's continuing, and that will actually only be bigger and better over the next 4 to 6 weeks as all of that work's kind of taken place, and you'll see it come to fruition.
And have you found that with the distributed workforce and the most obvious channel, I guess, for your people to be out and about, like meetups, that the more distributed team has taken on some of that employee advocacy work a bit more than they did perhaps pre-COVID?
It's a really interesting question. I don't know that we've necessarily seen that. I think a lot of people at the beginning were quite motivated. Okay, how do we shift? How do we shift from what we were doing to what's going to work for this COVID environment? And then I think a bit of fatigue has set in, and people are kind of just over it. And, you know, I'm getting a lot of messages now saying, I can't wait to get back into the CBD and have a coffee, and just see people face to face. James, who's in our team, actually hosts a meetup for product engineers in Melbourne, and they transitioned to Zoom. And they actually had one of their meeting for this month yesterday, and it's becoming less and less people attending, which is disappointing to see. But yeah, we have to go back to the drawing board to see how we can kind of lift some engagement, because it's very easy when you're working from home, I think, and you're busy because you've still got all of these meetings and all of these deliverables, to forget that we need to be engaging with the outside world still.
Yeah, and I definitely think that, you know, as I mentioned in the intro webinar, Zoom fatigue is a thing. But we're all facing the uncertainty of, you know, like, do you have a back to office plan yet, Laura, or is that sort of up in the air, really waiting for government?
Yeah.
And you deal with multinational offices, so separate plans?
Yeah, separate plans. So I'm kind of leading the charge from the Melbourne perspective. So, you know, with my increased capacity from not actively hiring, I have taken on a little bit more of the people operations side, and the office reopening project will be at least 20 times as big as the sending everyone home project. So at the moment we're in Victoria, so Dan Andrews to give us the green light to go back into the office. We are very much of the, I suppose, ethos, or however you want to say it, that just because we were one of the first to go home doesn't mean we should be one of the first to go back. We're completely capable of working from home. So we're going with a phased approach. So we'll put a bit of a smaller test group in once it's okay. We'll see how all of the facilities changes. and then also how the semi-distributed working occurs. So you still have the vast majority home with some people in the office until we get to build that up over time. With the UK and the US, they're not even really considering it for a number of months yet.
Yep, interesting times. Jade, are you intending to return to the office anytime soon? The office to an office external to your home office?
No, well, look, Middleton Executive is a remote first business anyway. So although we do have an office on Collins Street, we really only went in on a needs basis anyway, or typically we would spend a day or two on site with our clients, so that embedded model. So not in any rush to head back into the office just for the sake of heading into the office. I think it'll be nice to be able to connect with the team and catch up for lunches and coffees, which we haven't done yet, but I think at the right time, you know, those type of activities will start up, and we'll be led by our clients as well. You know, we spend the majority of our time on site with them, so when they're ready to do that, then we'll go by their lead, but no rush really.
So you're about to launch a podcast. I believe, Laura, that you guys already have. Is it an employer brand or is it more a product sort of concerned podcast?
It's actually more, if we think about it, employer brand. So I love working for PaperCut because the people are just so brilliant and they have ideas and they don't wait for someone to tell them that it's okay to kickstart, you know, their idea. And we had our awesome solutions architect in the UK, Matt Lee, who it was almost like fate. We'd had this same idea at the same time, but he started it first. So hats off to him. I applauded him the whole way through. He launched something called the Meet the Paper Cutter podcast. And it originally started off as just something we put out on social platforms, but we've now put it on all of the podcast platforms as well. And it's really a super stripped back, you know, look at some people in the business, who they are, you know, down to their family life and hobbies, to what they actually do in the business. What does a day look like? What's their experience of PaperCut? And yeah, I love it. There's a great one from our CEO, an episode I did, an episode our head of marketing, and even our head of people experience as well. So, you know, I love that we have a culture where someone was able to just go out and start that, and it actually wasn't driven from the talent team whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that kind of content can be far more authentic and effective when it is driven by internal rather than, you know, the marketing or the talent team leading it. And is that the sort of content that you're using when you talk about pipelining? Are you using that sort of content as a reason to reach out and connect with people in the pipeline? What are you actually doing to nurture and stay connected with those candidates? So I keep defaulting to marketing language. Prospects? No, not prospects.
So our candidates are typically more on, in terms of the ones that we're actively pipelining, more on the technical side. So we're talking more so engineers and product managers. They traditionally do a lot of research themselves. So what we are aiming to do is make that information as readily accessible as possible and ensure that they can find it. That had a lot to do with reimagining our careers page in the middle of last year. So we actually went with a bit of a video first model. So we have our company culture video is the hero of the page. We then have individual videos for each of our values. And then our blog feed at the bottom prioritizes anything that's people related. So those podcast episodes, they will come up in that feed. And so we've kept it short and sharp in terms of the content on the one career page, but you can click off into various parts and go on a bit of a journey of discovery, of understanding who we are and what our culture is about. In terms of what we want to do with the video next, so much more. We have a lot of video embedded into our onboarding in our pre-boarding as well. So, you know, as an example, a welcome message from our CEO soon after you've signed your contract and we've kickstarted your onboarding process. And we want to use more of that to connect people once they join with people, you know, who are maybe subject matter experts, that they might want to, you know, put a coffee catch up in their diary and really just give them as much of an insight as possible. And we really feel like video is the way for us to do that, because if you walk into an office in the UK or the US, you only have to know who 25 people are. If you walk into an office in Camberwell, which is where our Melbourne office is, you then have 146 people other than yourself. Right, so using video and images and putting face to name and adding that context of what they do in the business is going to be incredibly powerful. So my hope is that one day everything that's a document or a Confluence page or something written down that we have in our onboarding process, or even extending into any learning that's company-wide, will also be accompanied by a video.
That's a grand plan. Are you distributing the ability to create video at the moment, or does one person in the business have that responsibility for the technical kind of production of video?
So we're in the experimental phases. So we have access to brilliant video equipment in our office in Melbourne. We also have the likes of Matt Lee in the UK, who's passionate about it and brings in his own, and also someone similar in the US. So good that we have already a few key people passionate about it. What I would like to see is the ability to put the hands into the content creators, you know, more easily without having to go through marketing. Marketing love us, we love them. Fantastic relationship. They're happy for us to toy around with just recording on an iPhone, and then they'll help us out with any editing or any text or image overlay that we might need to do. But I have to admit that is kind of slightly hampered by the current situation. So what we have been doing is we've been using opportunities such as recorded Zoom meetings to take snippets and to actually make them into videos that can be downloaded and replayed later for little sound bites or pieces of information that could help new starters in the future.
Yeah, so Jade, you might want to wade in here, having just started, you know, Laura, I know that you're not using Video My Job or a similar sort of app at PaperCut, and it's fantastic having someone in-house who can create high quality content. Jade, I guess, is at the other end where she's gone full DIY and also has been able to collaborate with her marketing person on the production of content. I know you had a few teething problems, shall we say, just getting used to the app and the UX and things. But now, you know, how quickly can you collaborate to create a piece of video content? You know, if you're creating a message for a candidate or a client or something for LinkedIn.
It's like a matter of minutes. Really doesn't. It's
oh, you're kicking my butt then.
Yeah, no, it depends on how many times I have to take it before I'm happy with it. But once I actually get the quality that I want and the content down, and a few probably a few swear words here and there if it takes me a couple of takes, but once I've nailed that, it doesn't take long at all. And Jeanette, my marketing manager, she helps with, I guess, putting the finishing touches to it before we share it. But as Laura mentioned, I think as we go forward in the recruitment side of things, we're definitely going to be including a lot more video and a lot more audio. I think it's, you know, having an understanding of how people consume the content. And I think, you know, especially during challenging times like we're going through at the moment, there's so much bombardment of information that I think it's hard for people to consume it and digest it. So what I'm looking at doing with our recruitment processes going forward is partnering with our clients and getting, you know, hiring managers in front of the videos, talent teams such as Laura's and the CEOs of companies, you know, to potentially put snippets of videos together that we can then share when we're recruiting for those companies with people, you know, to either get them interested in the opportunity or to help them better prepare for their interviews going into the process, as well as, getting podcast episodes as well, because, some people do love the written word, other people really love audio, and just listening to a 6-minute podcast would be a great way for them to digest the information as they're going to their interview or preparing. So I just think I'm really excited sort of once recruitment does pick up and we can get back to that, FaceTime and connect with people to actually really start working that into our recruitment processes.
Do you have that at the moment, either of you, in terms of, so your automated messaging, for example, when you respond to a candidate who's applied for something, do you have anything, it's not just video, audio, image, neurodiverse, I guess, alternative to text happening at the moment, or is your process currently fairly email heavy?
Well, I feel a little bit restricted by our ATS. I almost, it might sound a little bit controversial, because I know that there's so many great new vendors on the market, and they come, a lot of companies are really coming a long way. I'm a bit frustrated it's not as easy to implement. So for example, our auto response for somebody applying is only one message. So the same message has to go out to everybody once they've applied. I can't include any rich media in that, images, video, whatsoever. So we're really trying to find places where we can control that. For example, when we send out a link to booking a phone screen, which is fantastic because people can book themselves in, that's not something that happened 5 years ago at all. We add in a PDF, which is, we call it the snackable guide to PaperCut. And it's really introducing them to a lot of the concepts, the language, and giving them a base understanding of the business, so that we can make sure we really take advantage of our 20 minutes together on the phone. Something that I would like to do there is level up our focus on a really pretty document, to then add, hey, if you don't have time to read this, here's a 30 to 45 second video link that you can click instead. So we just have to find a way around to link that out of our platform. So that's not something we can currently do within our ATS.
And do you have similar restrictions with the ATS that you're using? We don't need to name names. It's really interesting. Like, I think ATSs have come a long way, but obviously changing the platform you use is a massive whole business decision. So to a degree, you can often be a little bit stuck with what you've inherited.
The ATS that we use is actually super advanced, and they're way ahead with video. So they've already enabled a lot of video built in, so you can reply to candidates, and I can film a recording built into the platform and it will go out, or I can upload. So what we're using is actually pretty good. I'm actually midway through a project at the moment of putting together those short snippets, as Laura mentioned, because we've got a lot of collateral and a lot of candidate toolkits already that we share with our candidates as they're going through the various stages of the recruitment process, and that does introduce them to our clients and their history and their founders and the CEOs and what they can expect. But again, it is it's heavy on the words, so it's just PDF documents. So again, like Laura mentioned, I'd love to be able to embed quick links so they can go, yep, here's a quick video, or moving forward, potentially even, a snippet of the podcast.
Yeah. You could use Video My Talent as well to get your, the way you gave me a video for this, to get your CEOs and founders to deliver you a short message that you could then incorporate into your video content. I mean, I know actually the challenge, and I see that Andy's in here, he's familiar with this challenge, is actually getting people on camera. The intention is great, but often the hurdle is the people getting over their own sort of objections to being on camera. But it's great to see, I'm surprised, and this is from an external person, to see that your two processes are in fact so actually really quite similar. Is that unusual?
Yes, I'm going to say yes from my experience. So Jade doesn't have to put her foot in it. Yes, I think something that we spend a lot of time on at PaperCut when we select our panel is really understanding how are our candidates going to be treated by the consultants. What level of information are they going to receive? And we ask when the candidate walks through the door, what did they tell you? Right, so we check, and that's kind of our little little check that they're being taken care of, so that we can quickly act if they're not. So candidate experience, I mean, it's been harped on about for a number of years now. Pretty much every event / webinar has something to do with candidate experience, and I think one of the frustrating things from the internal TA community perspective is that it on paper, it doesn't sound that hard, right? So why are we still talking about it, and why is it still such a frustrating experience for people to hear back, or to understand the process, or to have clear expectations throughout the process, etc.? So what I decided to do when I came to PaperCut was, I was actually very lucky. I didn't inherit anything. It was pretty much a blank slate. What we had was good, but I had free rein to make it better. Was to go with a bunch of best of breed platforms, technology, and we're really building our process step by step. And if we don't have something, you know, we plan to go out and get it. From Jade's perspective, the way that we've seen her work is very much like an extension of an internal TA team. And that's what we look for. We want someone to be our true representative. We don't want to work with someone where every conversation feels as though they're out for themselves and their business. And I can hand on heart say that there are plenty of consultants and agencies out there like Jade. You just have to find them, and you have to spend time on the relationship to understand each other.
Yeah, for us, the candidate experience is at the heart of everything we do. And for us, the relationship with our candidates actually starts long before they're looking for their next job, and it actually continues way beyond us placing them. So, you know, one of the projects that I've been working on during lockdown is really focusing on that candidate experience and improving that. So, you know, I want to enable and empower our candidates. So one of the things that we did is create our own portal. So, you know, candidates are busy, they're working, it's hard to get hold of them during normal working hours. So they have their own portal, so they can log in on their mobile, on a desktop, very easily update all of their information, their availability, and select the preferences that they're interested in. And that allows us to nurture them ongoing. So we're very active in partnering with training providers and specialists within that product community, so that, you know, we partner with them and we get promotions and discounts to major conferences, discounts to training courses. So our candidates, you know, rely on us to provide them that information. So, you know, when big product conferences are happening every year, they've come to rely on, oh, well, we're going to get a discount code from Middleton Executive with a certain percentage off, or, you know, there's a promotion with a training course that's going to help them level up, and provide that extra information sort of beyond that. So really that candidate experience is so important to us.
And do you find that relationship continues beyond the initial placement?
Yes, definitely. You know, candidates, and because we're so embedded in our clients, like, you know, if I'm on site with Laura, I'll walk past, you know, heaps of people that I've placed, you know, 5 years ago, and they're still there, or they'll text me and say, oh, I've got married, here's my wedding photo. So, you know, once I'm on site, I have a lot more interaction with them anyway. But then they will reach out and say, you know, oh, I'm applying for a promotion at work. You know, can you help me prepare? Or, you know, I want to learn a new skill. What's in demand at the moment? And I can point them in direction of, you know, training providers or what I'm seeing that other companies are asking us for. So they do tend to come back to us, and we're very open to feedback. So once every candidate goes through a process, whether I'm involved in it or not, because I'm not exclusively candidate focused, and the delivery team will look after that side of things, but I do then reach out to them after they're placed and you know, ask them, how was the process, you know, what went well, what could have been improved when you went through the process. If you went on site with PaperCut, did anything happen that we didn't expect? You know, was there an extra person in the interview? Was there an extra interview that we didn't tell them about? Did they feel prepared going in? Because that feedback, as positive or as negative as it may be, just helps us constantly improve, iterate, and offer better services to our candidates. And like Laura said, you know, clients will either ask them outright whether they had a good experience with Middleton Executive or not, or the candidate will be very verbal about it. And, you know, by looking after our candidates, we're really actually looking after our clients at the same time as well.
Definitely. So you've both, to my delight, talked quite a lot about video. Do you feel like the distributed work has accelerated video adoption in your business? So you're both using very different tools, but has it made it much more of a business as usual activity, do you think?
I think personally, yes. We had a period there where Slack was on overdrive, and some people in our support team actually pulled out the stats for us in the first few weeks of working distributively, and was like, yep, we're all slacking each other a hell of a lot more. And the people experience team went, okay, all right, look, we have to intervene here. We can't have every single interaction via Slack. Obviously our meetings had turned to, we have Google Meet, so they turned to Hangouts. What we decided to do instead, I suppose in addition to that, was some members of our leadership team started providing updates via video and posting them into Slack. Which was fantastic. And that started a bit of a trend. So, you know, you can sit back and go, I've just written out this wonderful message, updating the whole business on something so exciting. Is everyone going to read that? Or would it maybe be a little bit more engaging if I did a quick 30-second video and said, if you want to know more, reach out to me or read the email that I've sent, because we were trying to also do email and Slack, not exclusively one or the other, so that people could choose how they wanted to consume the information. So I've definitely seen it start a trend. We also are multinational, like we've been chatting about. So having overseas locations and already having a number of people who work remotely out of places like Singapore, Germany, New Zealand, and all over America, video internally has been a big part of our culture and ensuring cultural connectedness, especially for people who are remote, because it's seeing people's facial expressions and hearing their voice and all of those sorts of things that can help you build those connections with people. So yeah, it's accelerated, and I'll do my best, and I'm sure the rest of the people experience team will, once we're back in the office, to remind everyone of what a great medium it is. And I know it has almost turned into just talking constantly about video, but it's not actually intentional. It's not on purpose. I promise you, we didn't script this beforehand to talk constantly about video, but it just works, and it's more, I feel it's more human as well.
Yeah, definitely, Jade.
I completely agree with that. I think, you know, when the pandemic started, you know, everyone was thrown into, you know, crisis mode very quickly. And I was thinking, like, I wanted to be of service to the community and I wanted to support people, but there is only so many hours in a day. And I was literally doing back-to-back calls with candidates and clients that had lost their job, and everyone was in a panic. And video really allowed me to address so many concerns in a really authentic way, because you're in front of a camera and you can't hide your feelings. They can sense that. But I was able to get that message out. Instead of, you know, 8 people a day or 10 people a day, I was able to get it out to literally thousands of people. And the views on each video was crazy. And the amount of people that reached out to me via, you know, text message, phone calls, LinkedIn messaging, just saying that video really helped me with what I needed on that particular day. And the feedback was positive. So I think that allowed us to, you know, really connect with people in a very authentic and honest way. And then on top of that, the surprise effect was I actually had a lot of clients reach out to me, and even clients that I haven't worked with before, saying, we've seen your video content, we'd like to talk to you about X. So it's actually opened up other doors that wasn't intended, but it's obviously a nice result.
I actually had a recruiter who'd worked with PaperCut for a while ago, so before my time, so I didn't have a personal connection with them, and he's now sent me 2 videos showcasing his video software and explaining how he uses that with candidates and how he uses that when he engages with his clients. And he's got himself a coffee catch up out of that, so it does work.
That's great. So I'm just asking if, okay, so Andy from Oricon has asked basically, when we do return to the office, how do you see video fitting into your strategy when remote work and pandemic, I don't know if we can say that's going to be over in the next half year, but when it starts to calm down, Jade, do you think you'll continue to build on what you've created so far?
Definitely. I actually, it's a bit embarrassing that we're so late to adopting, because now we have it. I'm like, why haven't I been doing this for 3-4 years? So I actually can't imagine a time when we're not going to be using it. And to be honest, once we'll have the external videos that we're putting out to the community, but I intend to use it a lot internally as well. So as a remote first business, my team will be distributed ongoing. And I think having internal videos that people can access on any topic would be really good. So we're definitely going to continue to use it even more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, Andy's so good at this anyway, so I don't know why he's had to ask this question. For us, definitely continue down the adding video in to promote learning in different ways and consumption of information, that's more tailored to what people's preferences are. A lot of our external video content is around our product. So I'd like to continue down pushing more external video content that's around our culture, and that doesn't have to be so, studio filmed and edited. Internally, I think we'll definitely try and include more video content in our communications with our people. But the biggest thing for the talent team's perspective will absolutely be how we integrate it into our process. So how do we share information with our candidates? How do we keep them engaged through video in between parts of the process? How do we give them more insight into what to expect? So next stage for our careers page, as an example, will be to have an FAQ section on our interview process. And that will include video content instead of just, kind of standard expandable text and, for the answers, etc.
Great. Hang on.
Yeah, that's a good point from Andy on people being more comfortable with video. I also find a good trick is to give them some bullet points as a bit of a script, so they don't feel the pressure to come up with what to say or whether or not they say the right thing or the wrong thing. We find if we put a script in front of someone and we talk it through with them and we allow them to make sure they're comfortable with what it says and they've put their own flavour on it, that they'll happily do the video. I know it sounds like we're scripting them. We're not. They come up with the idea and then we script it for them.
Yeah.
But it's the same way that you might, for one of your executives, you talk about in advance what is the message that you want to give to the team. You help them fashion that into a legally accurate, promotional whatever, and then you give it back to them and they deliver it. I think everyone feels more confident, being on message, which is where our teleprompter, I'll need to talk to you about this, Laura. So there's a built-in teleprompter, so you can either read it or you can just put a few bullet points I find it helpful to just keep me on track. But that does really help, I think, with people's confidence of just not going, not waffling, staying on message, which can be, I think a lot of us default to nerves and, fast speaking or things like that when we're being filmed. So scripts, I think they can really help. Look, we have gone a bit over time, but thanks for the great questions. Thank you both for sharing what you've been up to. I'm feeling a little bit inadequate at just how much work that you guys have managed to push out. And I wish everyone a happy return to work whenever, or not return to work, return to the office whenever that happens. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.